everyone, it's Don once again. This is part 2 of the third video of a 3-part series, soon to be 4, talking about the fees that we as residents pay as part of our home ownership here in the villages. I've only scratched the surface on the 60-plus budgets, hundreds of expense and funding accounts, and the over $382 million these accounts and budgets represent. All of this is a necessary part of making the villages the community that it is. I've not touched on the county government and taxes levied by them and how that impacts the villages. I'll save that discussion for another time. As you can already see, the screen is showing you what's happening with construction here in the villages. The text below it describes what is being shown. It does make things a little more difficult to follow, so after you watch and listen to the video, mute the volume, put on some classical or some light jazz music, and watch it a second time to get the rest of the information you may have missed. I've received some complaints from viewers about the commercials that appear while watching my videos. This is all up to YouTube. I have a little control on when the ads appear, but no control over what ads are shown. This is just how YouTube's business model works and how they make their money. The internet is not free. As you watch this video and I discuss the many topics, I'm going to say some things in this video that will upset a few people. To these people, this is what I have to say.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Some will disagree with me. That's fine. It's a free country. You're entitled to your opinion, even if it is wrong. Some will accuse me of not knowing what I'm talking about. Let me tell you, I spend a lot of time researching and studying the information I put out to you and work hard to make sure it's as accurate as humanly possible. Some will even go so far as to say I'm on the developer's payroll doing these videos. This one is completely false. I am not in any way compensated by the developer or any of their companies for my work and my videos. I've been doing drone videos of the villages since Hurricane Irma hit Florida about 3 years ago. For the last 2 years, I've been at odds on multiple occasions with the developer over what I show, when I show it, and what I say. To put a little icing on the cake, or maybe it's gasoline on the fire, I've been on the CDD-10 board and the Project-Wide Advisory Committee for the last 6 years, and have challenged anything and everything I didn't see as in the best interest of the residents, or that may have favored the developer over the residents in some way. Does the developer know who I am? You bet they do. If they have a naughty and nice list, I'm pretty sure I'm in the running for a top 10 spot on the naughty list. So be it. I just try to be objective. While I don't always agree with what and how the developer does things, for the most part, they do things better than any other construction company I've seen. I was a project manager working in the construction industry for nearly 20 years before retiring 2 years ago. Had I worked for a company this well run, I probably wouldn't have retired early. But then I'm enjoying the heck out of retirement here in the villages, so there's always a silver lining to every cloud. In my videos, I try to look at most things pragmatically and from a business viewpoint. Unlike many living here in the bubble, I haven't forgotten how the real world works, and I don't despise somebody making an honest profit. I don't gain anything by taking a stand one way or the other with the developer, so I'm simply trying to give you the available facts. Enough of the idle chit-chat, though. Let's start with a topic many of you are here for, money. In my last video, I told you I wanted to give away $10,000, $1,000 to 10 individuals, and that's exactly what I'm going to try and do. Why am I doing this? Well, we need a little background first. Early last year, the Amenity Authorities Committee and the Project-Wide Advisory Committee decided to remove the deferral rate from the amenity fee we all pay. Many were enraged. Over and over again, I heard people say and write in some online forum or website that they were told their amenity fee would never go above $155. They were promised this, and that was one of the reasons why they bought here. They said Harold Schwartz would never let this happen. I heard this at the joint meetings of the AAC and Project-Wide Advisory Committee when this was discussed. I read the outrage of this all over Facebook. There was an avalanche of complaints and comments on talk of the villages. So how does removing this deferral rate really affect us? Well, starting last October, when the deferral rate went away, for those of us like myself who were at the $155 deferral rate, you had about a 3% consumer price index adjustment. Your amenity fee would go up to about $160 per month this first year, a total of about $56 for the year. For 10 people, I'm going to pay you this CPI adjustment difference, about $56 or whatever it happens to be for your property on October 1st. Next year, your amenity fee with the CPI adjustment might go up to about $164, another $113 over the deferral rate. For these same people, I'm going to again pay you the difference. And I'm going to keep doing this each year until I've paid each of these 10 people a total of $1,000. How long this actually takes depends on the CPI adjustments made each year. My wife thinks I'm absolutely insane to do this. I've told her my drone business is picking up. I've got it covered. I hope I'm right on this. Here's all you have to do to be one of these 10 lucky people. Provide me with a copy of the legal document between you and the villages that guarantees you will never pay an amenity fee greater than $155. This can be your deed restrictions, an addendum to your deed restrictions, or some other document in your home closing paperwork. It just needs to be a legal contract document. That's it. Simple as that. When you have the document, scan it or take a picture of it with your phone or digital camera and email it along with your contact information to 10k@goldwingnut.com. You have until September 15, 2020 to send me the documents. On October 1st, 2020, I'll announce the winners and give them their first checks. Of course, there are some additional rules and terms to this that you have to agree to. You can see all these terms on my website, goldwingnut.com/10k. I've put a link to them in the description below of this video. So why am I doing this? Because I believe that we, as the residents, need to be treated fairly, and all parties must live up to the agreements they've signed and agreed to. If we have to take legal action to make this happen, then these are the first documents needed for me to pursue this action. Now, some of you may say you don't have a document that says this, but you were told by your realtor. Well, that would be an agreement between you and the realtor and not the villages. You'll need to discuss this with your realtor. It's not eligible to win the $1,000 giveaway. Or maybe you have an email or other document between you and another third party where this may have been stated. Again, it's not a legal document between you and the villages. It's not eligible. You'll need to take up the issue with that party. So that's it. That's how I'm going to try and give away $10,000. Gather your documents, read the terms and rules of the giveaway, and then email me your documents at 10k@goldwingnut.com. On October 1st, I'll start writing checks. Now let's get started with the questions and comments that were at the end of my last video. First up, the deferral rate. What is it, and why did we have it? It was established on July 15, 2010 by the Village Center Community Development District upon recommendations of the AAC. On May 17, 2012, the Sumter Landing Community Development District adopted a similar resolution for all areas south of County Road 466. So why did they do this? Mainly to equalize the amenity fees being paid by residents. There were literally hundreds of different rates in effect at the time due to the different rates in effect at the time the home was purchased and the annual CPI adjustments that are calculated monthly and applied to these rates. Setting a cap, the deferral rate, on these rates would allow most of the rates to equalize at the $155 mark. This was a one-year resolution that could be canceled at any time. As finances were good for the AAC and the Village Center Community Development District after the lawsuit settlement, this would be good for all the residents, and most importantly, it would simplify accounting and tracking of the amenity rates. Think about what just happened south of County Route 466 when the Sumter Landing Community Development District implemented the deferral rate. Remember, these are all landowner elected supervisors, with the developer being the primary landowner. Also at this time, the developer owned and operated all the amenities south of County Route 466. These supervisors just told their boss, you can't raise the rates for the amenities that you already own. When this deferral rate was established south of County Route 466, the project-wide advisory committee was still 14 months away from being created on July 17, 2013. 4 years after the deferral rate had been established, in the late summer of 2016, the developer made the decision to sell its interest in the amenities between County Route 466 and State Road 44. The reasons for this were never officially announced, but two things seem most logical. One, they wanted or needed to focus on their core business of developing land and building homes. And two, the sale would provide a quick infusion of cash and a recovery of their investments in the amenities to help fuel the growth we are now seeing south of State Road 44. Sumter Landing Community Development District purchased the amenity assets and contracts, the contracts being the residents' monthly amenity fee payments. This is an important fact to remember. The Sumter Landing Community Development District owns the amenities, not the numbered residential community development districts, and not the residents. Because the amenities are now owned by a governmental body, their finances and budgets are now open for public view. Under the developer, these numbers were private and privileged information. A few months later, on May 18, 2017, the Sumter Landing Community Development District directed the oversight of the SLAD fund to be given to the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. They didn't have to do this, but they did, giving the PWAC a charter nearly identical to the AAC's and effectively giving control of the amenities to the residents. While the developer may have been able to come up with large sums of cash in an emergency or to replace a major asset when they owned the amenities, the Sumter Landing Community Development District did not have this ability for the SLAD fund. The SLAD fund's R&R budget was initially funded as part of the sale of the amenities, and while sufficient for the immediate and short-term needs, it was always known that additional reserves would need to be accumulated for the long-term needs. The amenities repair and replacement reserves receives about $2.25 million each year from the SLAD fund budget to fund these reserves. The reserves now sit at about $20 million. As costs go up every year for everything from electricity to labor, the building of the R&R reserves could not be sustained on a fixed income budget established by the deferral rate. The projections showed that sometime in early 2023, the income and expenses would be equal, and there would be no funds to put into the R&R reserves. By the beginning of the 2024 fiscal year, it was projected it would be necessary to use R&R funds to balance the budget and sustain the same level of service and amenities. The deferral rate had done its job, and it was time for it to end. In March and April of 2019, joint meetings were held with the AAC and Project-Wide Advisory Committee, and it was decided that the deferral rate resolution would not be renewed. The fiscal impact was no longer sustainable. While I focused on the Sumter Landing Amenities Division Fund and its finances, the same budgetary impacts hold true for the RAD Fund. The numbers are just a little bit different. Next up, the developers making a windfall profit off the amenities increase and removal of the deferral rate. As I discussed in the last video, the developer only mainly receives revenues from the amenity fee from homes south of State Road 44, and now the Lofts. Their costs are fixed just like north of State Road 44. The big difference is that while they're paying the bills for the amenities south of State Road 44, not all the homes are sold. So they don't have a full revenue stream yet. In other words, they're not making any money yet. If you look back at the budgets, the same pieces of the pie affect the developer as it does the SLAD and RAD budgets. The big difference is that they don't have a bond. Out of this piece of the pie comes their profits and the taxes they have to pay. Taxes in the form of income taxes and property taxes. If you look at the property taxes on just the Fenney Rec Center, it takes the amenity fees of about 18 homes for a full year just to pay the property tax bill. How many does it take to run and maintain it? Who knows? And don't forget, they saw the same 25% property tax increase the rest of us did. That was nearly $4,300 in increase just for this one piece of property. Yes, the developer owns many companies, and some of these companies are under contract to provide services to the Sumter Landing and Recreation Amenity Divisions. These are fixed contracts for services that have either been in force since the amenities purchased by the Sumter Landing Amenity Division, or they were competitively bid after the purchase. Imagine if your bank came to you and said, "Hey, you just got a pay raise. We're going to raise your mortgage payments and what you owe us." Sorry, it doesn't work that way with these contractors either. Yes, the developer will see CPI adjustments on the revenues they receive for the amenity fees south of State Road 44, but that's it. Don't forget also that the developer built and paid for these amenities south of State Road 44 and is hoping at some point to make back the money invested in those amenities. That money comes from the amenity fee, so it will likely be many years before they actually make a profit on the amenity fee. I think I've already sufficiently covered the topic, the developer's involvement in the amenities. Since I've been talking about the AAC and the PWAC, let's take a look at the next statement. The AAC versus PWAC. Why there's no AAC south of County Route 466. The AAC was established as a part of the settlement of a lawsuit. The details of this suit are irrelevant at this point beyond establishing the AAC. The Project-Wide Advisory Committee was established by the Sumter Landing Community Development District to get resident input and involvement in the operations of the project-wide agreement and fund. It wasn't until 2017 it took on the responsibilities for the amenities. The AAC is landowner elected. This means that there is only one vote per house on election day. The Project-Wide Advisory Committee is made up of supervisors elected by registered voters to serve on the CDD boards. The boards then choose one member and an alternate to serve on the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. There is a direct representation of the residents on the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. This is especially important for the Project-Wide Fund, but doesn't really have an impact on amenities. The AAC only oversees the RAD Fund and doesn't need input from their parent CDDs. The CDDs don't have input into the amenities. Project-Wide Advisory Committee has two functions: the project-wide responsibilities and the amenities of the Sumter Landing Amenity Division. While these responsibilities could be split up and another committee formed, it would prove only to add extra administrative cost. Giving these additional responsibilities to the Project-Wide Advisory Committee was a smart economic choice. The resolutions creating the AAC and the Project-Wide Advisory Committee are nearly identical. Two significant differences exist. One committee has an authority position given to it in the lawsuit settlement, and the other is only an advisory role. The other difference is that because Project-Wide Advisory Committee is an advisory role, if there's a disagreement between the PWAC and the Sumter Landing Community Development District, then a joint meeting is held to resolve the differences. Why wasn't the PWAC given authority? Easy. Neither the Project-Wide Advisory Committee nor the residential CDDs have any ownership of the amenities. Would you give someone without ownership and repercussions complete control over how you spend your Social Security check and retirement funds? Of course not. You might hire a bookkeeper or an advisor to manage your money, but you'd never give up total control of your money. Neither will the Sumter Landing Community Development District. Since the Project-Wide Advisory Committee is only an advisory role in the amenity fund, the Sumter Landing Community Development District doesn't need to follow the decisions of the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. The Sumter Landing Community Development District has never overridden a Project-Wide Advisory Committee decision, and likely never will. I try to stick to the facts, but this is my opinion. The establishment of the Project-Wide Advisory Committee was a move by the Sumter Landing Community Development District to isolate itself from backlash if something goes wrong. For example, District Property Management came to the Project-Wide Advisory Committee and said, one of the rec centers needs the roof repaired, and the Project-Wide Advisory Committee makes the decision to make the repairs until the next year. Sumter Landing will most likely follow the decisions of the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. Now, if 6 months passes and the roof caves in, the finger pointing will start. Sumter Landing can say, we followed the recommendations of the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. It wasn't our fault. Now the Project-Wide Advisory Committee has to answer for this. Of course, Sumter Landing Community Development District can override any decision made by the Project-Wide Advisory Committee. But, and this is my opinion once again, you can only do this a few times, or maybe even once, and then the Project-Wide Advisory Committee becomes impotent and need not exist. Everything would then rest on the shoulders of the Sumter Landing Community Development District, something they probably don't really want. The current arrangement works well, and the role the Project-Wide Advisory Committee has over the amenities is a positive one, and one that Sumter Landing Community Development District was under no obligation to provide. But they did anyway. A lot's been said over the last few months about the Project-Wide Advisory Committee and the Project-Wide Fund. Much of what I've seen has been very one-sided and somewhat misleading. I've touched on these briefly in the maintenance assessment video, and we'll do another video in the near future going into more detail on both of these. One of the common comments I heard when the deferral rate was going to be abolished was that this gave the developer or project-wide advisory committee or the AAC a free hand to raise the rates however much they wanted. This is completely untrue. There are only 3 ways to raise the amenity fee, and they all are listed in your deed restrictions. I call these the CPI creep, the reset, and the gimme. If you read your deed restrictions, you'll see all these laid out. The CPI creep is what we're most familiar with. Every year a small adjustment is made based on the Consumer Price Index. The CPI probably isn't the best index for this purpose and comes up short every year, but it's what was stipulated, so we work with it. The reset helps to overcome the shortfalls of the CPI. When you sell your house, the new homeowner pays the current prevailing rate for the amenity fee. They don't inherit your old rate. This normally results in an increase in the amenity fee collected for a property and helps bring the budget into a cash flow positive position. Then there's the gimme. Gimme more. Gimme something. Okay, if 50% of the homeowners want it, then the amenity fee will go up to cover the cost to build and operate it. That's it. That's the only way they can be raised. As you can see, the amenity fee is pretty much locked in and controlled. There's a lot of words in the deed restrictions about this, but that's it in a nutshell. I've read over 60 different deed restrictions for units throughout the villages, going all the way back to the original sections of the villages, and it's been basically the same for 35 years. If you don't have a copy of your deed restrictions handy, you can go to the districtgov.org website under the Departments tab and select Community Standards. Click on the Download Your Declarations and Restrictions, and you'll find yours listed on that page. I want to touch now on the Town Square Entertainment. While this is not an amenity, it is a great part of the lifestyle here in the villages. How is this funded? Well, half of the money comes from the Sumter County Tourist Development Council, about $120,000 this year. The other half comes from the villages. This is the developer, its many companies, and the merchants that lease property from them at the town squares. It does not come from the amenity fee or any other resident-funded fund. So why do they do this? Well, for the developer and the merchants, it helps to bring business from both the residents and non-residents alike into the town squares. For the county, they estimate that this town square entertainment is responsible for over 20,000 room nights in local hotels. If you stay in a hotel or other accommodation for less than 6 months, then there is a 2% tourism tax levied on the rental paid. If you're doing a short-term rental in a house in the villages, then your landlord is paying this tax out of the money they receive from you. For the county, tourism is a lot of money raised. It doesn't just include room tax, but also general revenue taxes from restaurants, gas stations, and other businesses that people will visit while in Sumter County. The money spent on town square entertainment is only a portion of the $600,000 raised each year through the taxes. In my opinion, this is a pretty good deal for all of us. The Lofts at Brownwood is the newest fly in the ointment when it comes to amenities. Phase 1 of the Lofts opened last month and has started renting units. The amenities, pool, rec center, etc. are owned by the developer and are no different than the other amenities south of State Road 44. The developer will collect the fee and reimburse the actual cost incurred to the Sumter Landing Amenity Division each month. As far as an impact goes, we're talking about 250 units diluted into over 14,000 homes between County Road 466A and State Road 44. About a 2% increase in the number of residents. Of course, there may be a slight surge in usage initially when a new resident moves in. We all were like this when we first moved to the villages, but it subsides quickly. Even golf won't be impacted with any significance. There are about 10,000 tee times a day available on the 42 executive courses. Not everyone from the Lofts will play golf every day. Just look at your own neighborhood or circle of friends and count how few actually are playing golf on a given day. In my opinion, the Lofts is not an issue to be concerned about. Next up is another one of my favorites. The developer has forgotten about the north end and is only interested in making money in the southern end of the villages. First off, the villages, that is the developer, is a business, and if you remember the way things worked outside the bubble, businesses need to make money to survive. The developer is in the business of building homes and selling them, To attract sales, they build amenities, commercial areas, and other things to attract their customers. If something makes them money, they feed it and keep it healthy. If something loses money, they close it and build anew to make something that is profitable. This is what happened with Katie Bell's and the Hacienda Country Club. They weren't profitable. They are now gone to be replaced with something new. The developer is done building houses at the north end of the villages. There's nothing in it for them. All the amenities now belong to the Village Center Community Development District, and the Community Development Districts are responsible for the rest of the operations and maintenance. Remember, you bought a house. You didn't buy a rich uncle who is going to take care of your every want and need until you die. Check your closing documents. You got everything you paid for. Remember also, if you want something new, there's always the gimme clause in your contract. If you get 50% of the residents to agree, you can have it, but you'll also have to pay for it. I wouldn't say the developer has forgotten about the north end, but I would say that just about everything north of State Route 44 is not on their radar to invest new money in. There's only limited profit in it. They don't owe any of us anything. I'll say it again, profit isn't a dirty word. It's a reality of how the world works. There's a very special place for a business that isn't focused on its profit. It's called bankruptcy court. How about this one? The developer isn't building amenities first like they did under Harold Schwartz and Gary Morse. It's just the kids being greedy. First, don't confuse our amenities with for-profit businesses like grocery stores, shopping areas, and the championship golf courses. An amenity swimming pool or rec center can sit empty all day and not go out of business. These businesses must have enough traffic and people spending money in them to keep the lights on. They're not charities. If you build it, they will come is not a winning business plan. If you look at the amenities south of State Road 44, there are actually more amenities, true amenities, per home than anywhere else in the villages. Not only more, but new and different amenities. Take the Riverbend Recreation Area. There's not another village rec center in the community that can match what is at this location. Could the work on the Magnolia Plaza have started sooner? Perhaps yes, but then that's easy for me and everyone else to say, because it's not our money at risk. When Mr. Schwartz and Mr. Morse were involved, things basically moved south at a steady pace, and it was much easier to build and make profitable the non-amenity facilities as homes flowed towards and around them. And they didn't come overnight either. They were all progressively built. In the 6 years I've lived in the villages, a dozen new businesses have opened on County Route 466. New businesses have opened in the Colony and Pinellas plazas. The Walmart neighborhood market and surrounding businesses have opened. And the commercial areas next to Brownwood and the Rohan Rec Center have opened. Why? Because that's where the customers are. There are finally enough customers south of the turnpike to support a commercial area, and it's coming along quickly. As far as being greedy, from what I see happening in the new areas, more money is being spent on amenities and preservation areas, and less homes are being built to recover these costs than has previously been done. I see a long-term business strategy that will work for many years to come. I'll say it again, profit is not a dirty word. Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic, the recreation news. In the budget, $893,500 is budgeted for communications. Yes, the rec news is a part of this cost, but only a part. In what's referred to by most as the rec news, there's also radio and television advertisements for recreation events. There's the districtgov.org website and the e-notification system, the Villages app, printing of information, and a host of other things. All of these together come up to about $790,000 of the $893,500 total for communications. So why do we even need it? It's the primary communications channel available to us that can reach nearly 100% of the population of the villages, assuming they can read. Communications of the recreation activities drives participation and utilization. Without these, the buildings and equipment that are the amenities diminish in value. What value is a rec center if it sits empty? Remember, it's the value of the amenities that the bondholders bought, and they expect the value to be protected. There is a responsibility to do this. The value the residents find in the amenities also affects the value of the community and their home values. Are there other means of communications that will work without the printed pages? Absolutely. Many have suggested a touchscreen kiosk at each rec center. Good idea. We'll need about 100 of them to put one in each rec center and a few extras for spares and special events. They start at about $3,000 a piece. Remember, there's a lot more to these than just an iPad. There's the back-end software licensed for each unit that has to be accounted for also. And you're going to need several people to manage the software and information. If you walk into a rec center, you'll want to see what's happening there first. And if the aerobics class you wanted to attend is full, you'll expect to be able to find quickly where the next nearest class is being held. There's a mountain of data that would need to be maintained. And that takes people, skilled people, and they don't come cheap. So $300,000 plus for the hardware and software, and guess what? It will have a life cycle of about 3 years. Then it will have to be replaced or upgraded. More money again. The current Villages app. That's an idea. But this app is very thin at best on functions and features. Using it to replace the paper version of the Rec News would be a significant investment in time and effort. Would you be happy with a PDF version of the Rec News to read on your phone? Probably not. You'd probably want a host of interactive features, some like I described for the kiosks, plus things like an alarm to notify you when your glass fusion class is coming up, or maybe when it's been canceled when the instructor gets sick. There are a lot of features that are possible, but they all cost money and take a lot of labor to develop and deliver. Yes, these are possible alternatives, and there are many more. But what about the current cost of the paper edition? Why does it cost so much? The first thing to look at is not the actual printing on the paper, but the behind-the-scenes production work. Managing the data and keeping it up to date for over 100 facilities and thousands of groups is a full-time process. You'll have to have someone to handle data entry and be familiar with database administration. How much would someone like this be paid? $30,000 a year? They won't be around long. $50,000? That might get us a person with the skills needed. Don't forget, this is just their labor. The cost of an employee to the employer is more. I'll be conservative here and assume it only costs about $75,000 a year to employ this person. You'll also need at least 2 others working in design, layout, review, and to support the other work involved with the contract. Assuming that one person would be the senior person and in charge, they might make a little more. So we're talking about $250,000 in labor, leaving just over $500,000 for production, distribution, and other contract deliverables. Even less if you have highly skilled people on staff. Some have also suggested just a limited distribution to the rec centers. Okay, the labor costs don't change for production whether you're making it for 1 copy or 100,000 copies. But the cost per copy will increase due to the lack of volume. So you might save half of the total cost of producing the actual paper copy. Some say put it on the internet and save all the money. Again, there's a cost for production and processing information that won't change. Some don't realize the internet isn't free. It's paid for by the content providers and the advertisers. As I said in the beginning, the ads are how YouTube pays its bills. As this is a government body distributing it, there are no advertisers, and the cost is borne by the district government and the amenity funds. One good thing here is that of the $790,000, the developer is picking up about $155,000 of this cost. So that's the cost they're picking up for the 6,000 homes south of State Route 44, of the total of nearly 60,000 homes in the villages. They're picking up more than their share. Yes, there are alternate delivery methods, but they will all cost about the same or even more to deliver. Efforts are in the works to develop an alternative delivery method. For now, the paper method is the most cost-effective with the greatest reach. So why did the AAC see a steep increase in the cost of communications in 2017? Simple. The developer had been giving the AAC a good deal on the cost and never really bothered to increase the cost over time. The cost information had not been public before because, again, the developer is a privately owned company and had no cause to open their books for a public audit. Once the amenity purchase was completed in 2016, the contract cost for the communications package had to be reconciled with the actual distribution quantities and cost. Had the cost distribution remained unchanged, the areas south of County Route 466 would have been carrying a disproportionate amount of the cost. In other words, contrary to popular misinformation, the cost for the rec news didn't go up. The bargain pricing for areas north of County Route 466 ended, and they had to pay their fair share. The rec news will be a contentious issue for the foreseeable future. Some don't read it and think they shouldn't have to pay for it. Well, we're not purchasing amenities piecemeal. It's a package deal. I don't play pickleball. Why should I pay for the maintenance on the courts? It's a package deal. And perhaps the newest complaint, why don't we get a refund on the amenity fee since most of the things were closed due to the COVID-19 outbreak? Let's take a look at the overall budget again. Things like the utilities, landscaping, maintenance, public safety, community watch, and the other items in the budget don't stop needing to be addressed. The pools still need to be maintained. You just can't turn off the lights and the air conditioning in a rec center and go home for 3 months. Thanks to our wonderful Florida weather, you'd come back to a massive mold problem that would cost millions to remedy. Let's not forget the bonds needing to be paid. I'm sure no one would like their retirement funds to stop paying them during this crazy time. The bond investors also certainly want to be paid. While the rec centers have been closed to the public, they still have been staffed, and they've been undergoing additional cleaning, and some deferred maintenance has been addressed. Yes, there have been some reductions in the cost for consumable items like pickleballs, paper towels, and toilet paper, but the extra cleaning efforts alone have more than consumed these savings. All things being equal, perhaps we should go back and calculate the exact costs and savings that have been incurred due to the COVID-19 outbreak. If there's a savings, sure, then give everyone $1 or $2 reduction in their amenity fee billing. But if there's a cost increase, are you also willing to pay the additional cost in your next bill? I think not. So that's my answers and responses for some of the frequent comments and questions about the amenities. As I said at the beginning, for some of you, you won't like my answers. For this, all I can say is,
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
don't forget, I'm trying to give away $10,000. Dig up your proof that you were guaranteed not to pay more than $155 a month for your amenities for as long as you live here, and send a copy of it to 10k@goldwingnut.com. You have until September 15th, 2020 to enter and win. I'll start writing checks on October 1st. Thank you once again for watching my videos. I'm Don Wiley.